Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Nerdy Movie News Roundup, the show where we round up all the latest news in the world of nerdy movies. Oh my gosh, I should probably center myself a bit better there. Okay, wow, there we go. Yeah, let's just get into the news. All right. First up, we have a trailer for Dune Part 2. Not gonna lie, was not a huge fan of Dune Part 1. I didn't really understand what was going on, didn't really get attached to any of the characters, didn't care about Timothée Chalamet or Oscar Isaacs, or like I felt nothing when Jason Momoa died. I don't even remember their names. So listen, the movies look pretty. This Dune Part 2, it looks pretty. CGI is obviously amazing. I'm sure the sound design in the theater will be like, wow, I could really hear the worm coming out of the sand. But I just wish I was a bit more into this world and these characters. It honestly feels like you have to have read the book to even really be able to understand what's going on in these movies. Because I don't feel like Denis Villeneuve did a particularly good job of world building to like newcomers to the franchise. But I don't know. I'll definitely rewatch the first Dune before I watch this, so maybe they'll work together as one experience, and I'll be able to gain the context for it. But even still, it's like they didn't get me attached to any of the characters, so it's like, why should I even care? But I don't know. We'll see. All right. First news story of the day. Margot Robbie is apparently going to play Sue Storm, or at least she's been offered the role. I will read this first paragraph here. A report from reliable Marvel Cinematic Universe news scooper Daniel Richman reveals that Marvel Studios has made an offer to Academy Award-nominated actor Margot Robbie to play Sue Storm, the Invisible Woman, in the upcoming Fantastic Four movie. Yeah, I mean, I think this would be good casting. Obviously, this hasn't been confirmed by the studios, nor has it been confirmed by any of the major trades, so we can't really take this as fact yet. But yeah, I don't know. I don't get too invested in casting because it's like, oh, is it a good actress? Okay, then she'll probably be fine. That's generally my perspective on it. But yeah, no, Margot Robbie would definitely be a good choice. I say, and what I say goes. Not really. Not in any situation, actually. But either way, let's move on to the next story. Speaking of Margot Robbie, that same dude, Daniel Richman, we'll read here. According to scooper Daniel Richman, Robbie will continue to play Harley Quinn in the DC universe, regardless of whether or not she plays Sue Storm in the MCU. The reporter stated as much in response to fan speculation concerning which actor might replace Robbie in the DC film franchise. So this dude is over here saying that Margot Robbie will definitely continue playing Harley Quinn. So his insider sources are saying that, I guess her and James Gunn have talked about it at this point. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see if any of this actually comes to fruition. Like, we might be in a situation where Margot Robbie is in both the MCU and the MCU in like very prominent roles. Very different roles as well, so that would really showcase her acting abilities. But we'll see. I mean, I don't know. I've never loved Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn. Like, I don't think that they've ever done a great job of making the character anything more than a crazy clown psychopath. I don't think they've ever really done that or made her more than that. But I don't know. Maybe I've been spoiled by the Harley Quinn animated show, because to me that's like the best version of Harley Quinn that I've ever seen. Although, to be honest, I haven't seen the animated series since I was a kid, so maybe they do a bit more with her character there. But like, to me, the animated series the Harley Quinn led show, I'm not talking about Batman the Animated Series, that is the best Harley Quinn in my opinion. But yeah, hopefully they can do more with her character moving forward in the DCU, should they move forward with Margot Robbie. But anyways, next story. It seems like Harrison Ford might be capping a bit. Let's read this paragraph here. In an interview with Total Film, Ford stated, "This is the final film in the series, and this is the last time I'll play the character. I anticipate that it will be the last time that he appears in a film," he added. He added that while he is aware of the television series currently in the works, he will not be involved in it. Um, so here's the thing. Do I believe that Harrison Ford is done playing Indiana Jones? Absolutely. The man is old, to say the least. Um, but is this going to be the last time we see Indiana Jones on film? Absolutely not. They are absolutely going to reboot the series and recast the role. Like that is 100% going to happen. I don't believe for a second that we're done with Indiana Jones. Now, is it going to happen anytime soon? Maybe not, but like in 10 to 15 years, absolutely. So I believe that he believes what he's saying, but I don't think that's going to actually happen. Okay. Next up, any Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Looks like it's going to be pretty long. So there's an image of the AMC Theaters website that said that it would be 2 hours and 20 minutes. But weirdly enough, when I just looked it up myself, it said that it was 2 hours and 16 minutes. So I don't know if that's been updated since then. But either way, it's gonna be a long movie. Well, I don't have any strong opinions about whether or not this is too long or too short. I often find that people like before they've even seen a movie will be like, that's way too long or that's way too short. But it's like you haven't seen the movie, so there's actually no way for you to know whether or not this is an appropriate runtime for the movie. It's like you literally can't know. So yeah, I also wanted to add that bit of wisdom there. Like, chill out, wait to watch the movie before you freak out about stuff like that. Okay, warning actually. I am about to spoil Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. So I will leave myself in this full screen camera mode while I am spoiling it. So when you see me become windowed on the bottom left and I'm reading another article, then you'll know that I am no longer spoiling Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Is that cool? You got it? Okay. Anyways, so earlier in the week, I had grabbed this article basically saying that Chris Pratt is stating, or I'll actually just read the quote. Speaking with Total Film, Pratt explained, it would be strange to continue Star-Lord's story without James. He's done such a masterful job in the first 3 films, we really found the voice of Peter Quill together, and without him, obviously, I would never have had this opportunity. It is his imagination on screen, he added. So to continue to tell the story, it would really be important to honor what he's done in the first 3 films and to honor what the fans have grown to love about the character, and not simply do it because people might show up to pay for it. So basically, he's saying that he doesn't want to come back as Star-Lord as a cash grab. Like it would have to be something that compels him to come back as Star-Lord. Now, if you've seen Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, you would know that one of the post-credit scenes ends with Star-Lord will return. So, taking that quote into consideration, it seems like, yeah, he has had conversations with Kevin Feige and to come back. And it seems like he's genuinely compelled by the story that they're wanting to tell. I mean, he also could be capping in that quote. Cappity cap capping. I don't know. Who knows? But then my mind goes to, how does Star-Lord play into the MCU at this point? Because he's back on Earth, so presumably the next time we see him, it'll be like in an Earth-based situation. So then I'm like, okay, well, what upcoming project could it be? I'm like, I don't think they could get him for a Disney Plus show. I think Chris Pratt is probably going to be too expensive for that. Like, could they get him for like, I'm trying to think, like, would he show up in Captain America 4? Would he show up in like maybe Thunderbolts? Like, does Julia Louis-Dreyfus be like, oh, this man came from space, I gotta investigate him for whatever reason, and is that how he shows up maybe in Thunderbolts? Probably not Spider-Man, right? I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how they use him in the future, because it seems like he's going to be an Earth-based character, at least for now. Like, it definitely seems like he probably won't show up in an upcoming Guardians movie without James Gunn, I would imagine. So yeah, I don't know. Very interesting situation we're in. Star-Lord will come back. And unless Chris Pratt is capping, He's genuinely compelled by whatever offer Kevin Feige made him, unless it was just money, and he was capping. Could be the case. So ultimately, we have no idea. All right, no more spoilers. Let's get back to the article. We're done with spoilers now. All right, let's get into this. So we're gonna read a big chunk of this article here. Writers strike inside the room as talks collapsed. To a lot of people outside the negotiating room, a strike by Hollywood writers felt inevitable. But it didn't feel that way inside the room. Until the last day or two, negotiators for both labor and management believed that the other side would give, and that a deal would be reached at the last moment. But picket lines in Los Angeles and New York this week tell a different story. The conflict that led to the breakdown of talks on the night of May 1st began the day before. On April 30th, the Alliance of Motion Pictures, picture and television producers, delivered a 40-page package of proposals to WGA's negotiating committee. It did not include key elements that the Writers Guild of America has insisted are essential to sealing a new 3-year contract, including a mandatory minimum number of weeks for TV writers and a minimum staff size for writers' rooms. So yeah, they're basically just not able to come to those agreements, right? The AMPTP thought the guild might accept those items, and others that the studios see as non-starters would have to be dropped. But on May 1st, the WGA responded to the AMPTP's 40 pages with a couple of sentences, withdrawing 2 minor items. At that point, it really shifted the perception, said one studio executive. It was like, oh crap, it's 2007 all over again. From the WGA vantage point, a strike became inevitable when Carol Lombardini, the long-serving president of the AMPTP, informed negotiators that the studios would make no further moves on several of the guild's core issues. Once we got into the evening, there was a moment where it became very clear that they had nothing more to give and were in fact asking us to drop most of our key proposals. Obviously the article goes way more in depth here. Listen, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to even pretend to be qualified to really be able to talk about the minutia of this whole situation here. It's very complicated, but in essence, writers in Hollywood feel like the current status quo is not enough, and they have demands that want to be met. And obviously, this strike is going to lead to, and we're going to talk about some of this stuff later in the show. It's going to lead to, movies being delayed, movies coming out half-baked, a lot like 2007, which obviously I was only 7 years old, so I don't remember how that effect happened. But from everything I hear, it affected like all content, right? All content came out terrible. Or not all content, but a lot of content came out terrible. Like shows that people were really liking were ruined and stuff like that. So we'll have to wait and see how this all falls out. Now listen, I said before that I'm not really qualified to talk about this stuff, but just for me, a big old dum-dum, when I see that like Leonardo DiCaprio was paid $29 million to be in The Revenant, yeah, you can redistribute that wealth a little bit. Maybe pay the writers a little bit more. Make them be a little bit more financially comfortable. I think Leonardo DiCaprio maybe doesn't need to be paid $29 million. I don't know. Do these studio executives need to need that much money? Probably not. Could probably make writers feel a little more loved. It can make them a little more comfortable. But hey, that's just me. Let's move on to the next story here. So, as far as projects that may or may not be affected, let's talk about Superman Legacy. So, according to the Wrap, it says here, Gunn, who serves as writer and director on the film, had submitted the first draft of the Superman Legacy script just several days before the strike officially began. This has not been officially confirmed by Gunn at the time of writing. So, basically, when it comes to Superman Legacy, from what I've read and from what I understand, James Gunn will be able to like, right, because he, by the way, he is a WGA writer, so he, from what we've heard, James Gunn probably will be complying with the strike. James Gunn is able to continue working on the film, but he can't make adjustments to the script. So that could potentially prove to have issues with the with the film itself, because oftentimes rewrites are done. Rewrites are done like in production, even when they're filming. They're like, this doesn't work quite as well. Let's do this instead. So yeah, we'll wait and see. Hopefully, the first draft script was just a banger all on its own, but we'll have to wait and see how that affects Superman Legacy. But Superman. Speaking of Superman Legacy, David Zaslav has said some stuff. This is David Zaslav. He's the CEO of Warner Brothers Discovery. So let's read this quote he had to say about the writer's strike. "We're not glad," he said on CNBC's Squawk Box Friday morning when pressed by co-host Joe Kernan about the potential cost savings. "Look, we're a pure storytelling company, and we've been fighting to get the greatest creatives to come work at Warner Brothers," Zaslav said. Oops. In order to create great storytelling, we need great writers, and we need the whole industry to work together. And everybody deserves to be paid fairly. So our number one focus is, let's try and get this resolved. Let's do it in a way that the writers feel that they're valued, which they are, and they're compensated fairly. And then off we go. Let's tell great stories together. So, and then I think he said some other thing here. He was further asked about what common ground could help end the strike, and he responded by pointing out the unique role entertainment plays in popular culture. "I think a love for the business and a love for working," Zaslav said when asked about a trigger that could bring the sides together. "We all came into this business because we love storytelling. We want to entertain. And when we're at our best, we get a chance to have an impact on the culture. And so that's what's going to bring us together." No, what's going to bring you guys together is you paying them what they think they're worth. That's what's going to bring them together, okay? Not whatever nonsense you're talking about there. But I mean, for the most part, he is providing lip service. We'll see if we'll see if that actually comes to fruition in the negotiations. But then he also had spoke on Superman Legacy itself. So we'll read what he had to say about Superman Legacy here. We'll read this paragraph here. Per The Hollywood Reporter, Zaslav spoke about Gunn's DCU during a recent earnings call. He also discussed the direction of the studio after Gunn and Peter Safran took over as co-CEOs of DC Studios in October 2022. After two of the worst years in Warner Brothers' history, Zaslav expressed confidence in Gunn and Safran's plan to restore DC's reputation. "We got Gunn and Safran working very hard on DC, which is going to be a very big growth driver for this company. We are very bullish on DC. The Superman script first draft is done. Gunn is on a mission from God. It is a really good moment to prove out on DC what we got and how strong it is globally for long-term sustainable growth." So Zaslav is very much obviously like just reiterating just how important Superman Legacy is. Like, this movie is definitely the most important comic book movie in production right now. Might be I would honestly go so far as to say that it is the most important just movie in production right now, because Marvel at the moment is on the back foot. If DC can come out and if James Gunn can deliver a phenomenal Superman Legacy, it will that would probably save the comic book movie industry from what seems to be a very severe decline at the box office. And then he would obviously have to continue it with phenomenal movies after that point, but that could be the start of it. And it would also, begin the reign. It could potentially begin the reign of DC as the premier comic book movie studios instead of Marvel has for the past 10, 11, 12 years. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see, but But obviously, David Zaslav recognizes how important this movie is. And then David Zaslav is also teasing a Superman video game. So let's read his quote here. We have a very good gaming business with 11 different studios and a real talented capability. But the real differentiator for us as a company is that we own our IP. That IP belongs to us, and we're developing it. And in some cases, we may choose to develop it with a third-party game technology company. So, obviously, David Zaslav has never played a video game, but continuing, we may be the only media company that owns, whether it be the DC Universe, Harry Potter, all the content that we own, Game of Thrones. That's for us to deploy. I think that's particularly important strategically. If we look at Hogwarts Legacy, a big piece of the success of that game is that you go into it. If you're a player, you go into that game and you're in that world. That's kind of a new concept. Before it was gaming and it was storytelling, and now it's very difficult to understand what the definition of the metaverse is. When we launch a product on Max or HBO, and when we have a game that belongs to us, but now there's this in-betweener. It may be in the next couple of years that we launch a Superman movie and people spend more time and there's more economics of people just hanging out in the Superman world and universe. The fact that we own all of that is something that I think is going to be really important as we look forward. As technology develops and given the amount of time that people spend on gaming, we don't want to be in the motion picture and long-form storytelling business and have somebody else in the business of hanging out in those worlds. Those worlds are going to be quite profitable in the years ahead. Okay, what I think he's saying with this, and obviously he doesn't understand what a video game is, but what I think that he's getting at, and is kind of true, when he says that they're the only media entertainment company that owns their own IP or whatever he said. What did he say? We're the only media company that owns all the content that we own. I think what he means is that they're the only media company that not only owns really profitable IP, that also owns really talented game studios. And by the way, I think that's true because Disney doesn't have that. Neither does Paramount or whatever, or Universal. So they are right about that, right? Because not only do they own DC and Harry Potter, though, do they own Harry Potter? I don't know, I have no idea. Not only do they own DC and Harry Potter, but they also own Rocksteady. They own whoever made Hogwarts Legacy. They own NetherRealm. They own a bunch of different. They own like really talented studios. So, and I think what he means by that is that yes, we are obviously going to try and really revitalize that, because for a while they haven't really been using that situation to its potential, really, right? It's like there isn't that big of a DC Games presence like there really should be. They finally got around to making like a big AAA Harry Potter game the way it really should be made, right? It's like, yeah, like they should probably make a premier Lord of the Rings game as well. Like, I know Shadow of Mordor, that was probably, those games were probably successful, but even still, I don't think that they had the cultural effect that they could have had. So I think that's what he's saying. And he uses Superman as an example. And then let me bring up a quote from Peter Safran from a few months ago. Because it's interesting. Peter Safran talked about making DC games as well. This is the quote that he said. Gaming is a big part of what we're doing. And by the way, Peter Safran is co-CEO of DC along with James Gunn. And everything we do at DC comes through us. Gaming is just part of it, but it's an area that we love and we think could really be expanded upon. He went on to say that these games they make will put an emphasis on storytelling in the universe as opposed to individual movies or television. So, and then let's read this other quote. It's not like we're going to have Superman come out and then have the Superman game come out. It's more like we have Superman come out, then 2 years later we have Supergirl coming out. So what's the story in between there? Is there a crypto game that we can play that comes in between that's still set in the world with these characters, but that's its own thing to sort of give games the prominence that they deserve. So it's interesting. I don't know. I just find it interesting that in both instances where Peter Safran and David Zaslav were talking about making games, they both used Superman as an example. I don't know. I'm honestly starting to become convinced that we are going to get like a Superman game. That DC has obviously been so hesitant to make. I think most likely just because Superman is a very difficult character to adapt into video games, because it's like if you make Superman as powerful as Superman should be, then it's obviously going to be too easy of a video game. If you depower him, oh, I'm sorry, I don't think I was showing you the article. My apologies. But if you depower him to make the gameplay more fun, then are you really playing a Superman game? It's a really hard balance to strike, at the end of the day. So I sympathize with how difficult making Superman would be, but I'm starting to get the feeling that they're going to try it. And by the way, I really love how I appreciate what Peter Safran is describing there, because what you really don't want to do is you don't want to have your filmmakers and your video game developers be completely dependent on one another and have to like really be force them to collaborate too hard. Because at the end of the day, making movies and making video games are a very different process, and I feel like it would be very problematic to try to make that work. But if what he's describing here is that you have the Superman movie come out, and then you have another game come out, and then you just tell a story that isn't directly connected with those two with those two movies, but just kind of tells a story in between them, I think that could maybe work well. I'm still kind of the opinion of like, I don't need the games to be in the same cinematic universe, even if they're not completely interwoven. They still are going to be pretty interwoven, and you still are at the end of the day limiting your developers, right? Because it's like if Superman kills a villain in Superman Legacy, well, guess what? Those developers cannot use that villain. If one of the filmmakers wants to use a villain or is using a villain in one of their movies, well, guess what? The developers, they can't use that villain because the filmmaker is using him. So, oops, I gotta restart my camera. So but I mean, yeah, at the end of the day, that doesn't matter because clearly this is happening, and clearly the films will be in the same universe, or the games will be in the same cinematic universe as the DC universe. So we're just going to have to wait and see how they're able to balance all of that out. Okay. Next story. Wonder Man was targeted by the strikers. A video shared by Austin Knox on Twitter shows internet personality Hassan Piker and comedian and labor organizer Adam Conover outside of a shoot for Marvel's upcoming Disney Plus series, Wonder Man. Piker explained that if there are more than 2 people on a picket line, the Teamsters Union will not bring their trucks onto the set. That's a huge deal for production, he said. You got makeup trucks, you got trailers, you got a whole bunch of different things that need to come in for the set to work properly, and the entire point of this is to stop that from happening. So yeah, apparently they're targeting actual productions as well. I think it's fair enough if they're able to do things legally and make their presence known, and obviously put studios in a position where they're incentivized to find a resolution even quicker. I think this is all fair game to me. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see what happens with that. But I don't think they actually ended up, at least I haven't read anywhere that they actually ended up pausing production on the Wonder Man. But they were a nuisance. So yeah, we'll see what happens with that. All right, next story. Marvel has hit pause on Blade due to the writer's strike. We will start reading here. Marvel Studios is shutting down pre-production on its vampire thriller starring Mahershala Ali, which was set to begin filming next month in Atlanta. The feature project, which has been paused once before, becomes the first tentpole movie impacted by the strike. Cast and crew members are being notified this afternoon. Blade had recently hired True Detective creator Nick Pizzolatto to work on the script, but according to an insider, time simply ran out. So, right, this is not like the Superman Legacy situation where James Gunn was able to finish writing a script, right, that they can use in production of the movie. They don't have a finished script for Blade, so they can't work on the movie. And then there's also a tidbit that they kind of snuck in here. So it says here in this paragraph, Fantastic Four, which is in the midst of the most closely watched casting search since Marvel hired Tom Holland to play Spider-Man 8 years ago, is eyeing a January 2024 start date in London. So they just snuck that into the Hollywood Reporter that they're eyeing to start filming on January of 2024. So that's just an interesting thing to point out there. But yeah, Blade is this movie just can't catch a break. They've gone through like 3 different directors. They just completely threw away the previous script. Now they have a new guy writing a new script, but he wasn't able to finish in time before the strike happened. Listen, this movie is just is cursed. It'll be a miracle at this point if it turns out good. But we'll have to wait and see, won't we? Okay. Next story. Okay, Disney is being cringe. Per the Hollywood Reporter, Disney-owned ABC Signature's legal department distributed a letter reminding showrunners and writer-producers that they are not excused from their duties despite the ongoing strike and the risk of fines from the WGA. The letter was dated May 3rd, the second day of the WGA strike, which began on Tuesday, May 2nd. Programs produced by ABC Signature include The Good Doctor, Grownish, The Rookie, Grey's Anatomy, Station 19, and Godfather of Harlem, among others. So, yeah, cringe. Disney is basically forcing some of their producers to continue working, even though doing those specific tasks would violate whatever contract they have with the WGA. That seems really cringe. And hopefully some of that gets resolved. Okay, next story. Apparently, Tears of the Kingdom is having a Treehouse live stream the day before it comes out. It's going to be at 9:45 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and they're just and it's like annoying because it's like I don't know if I'm going to be able to resist watching it, but it's also like it's the day before. Why are you doing this, Nintendo? That's like I don't want to watch it because of spoilers, but it's like I could also react to it and make content about it. So that's probably what I'll end up doing, but also Nintendo, cringe. Why are you doing this to me? Whatever, next story. It seems like we got some casting information about Superman Legacy. So somebody asked James Gunn, will any cast member for Guardians of the Galaxy be in Superman Legacy? James Gunn just replies with yes. So who will this cast member be? Will Chris Pratt in fact be playing Superman? I doubt it. I've been thinking about this. I'm gonna throw something out there. How old is Karen Gillan? She's 35. They've said that. Okay, because my thing was like maybe Karen Gillan as Lois Lane, maybe something like that. Well, they've said that they're looking for a younger Superman. So I feel like the actor that they're going to get for Superman is probably going to be in his mid-20s, early 30s, I would assume. So Karen Gillan might be a bit old for Lois Lane, but not she'll definitely be, but she's definitely in, like, it's definitely a possibility though. Um who else? I've been trying to think. I'm like, who else could they get? Like, I don't think that anybody in the Guardians cast would play Superman. Um ugh. I heard somebody suggest Will Poulter as Jimmy Olsen. I think that would be funny. How old is Jimmy Olsen actually? Or Will Poulter, not Jimmy Olsen. Will Poulter. He's 30. So that might be a thing. That might be a thing they might want to do actually. Yeah, that's actually not a bad call. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, James Gunn is saying that yes, and I'll obviously, like, any one of them could also just play the villain as well. Whoever that's gonna be. Oh, he has said that Lex Luthor is gonna be in this in the movie. Maybe like Chawudi Iwuji. Oh gosh, I'm sorry. That's so offensive. Who the guy who played the villain in in Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Oh gosh, that was so offensive. I'm sorry. I don't know how to pronounce his name. Hold on. Where are you at? Chukwudi Iwuji. Sorry, that's probably pronounced wrong as well. I don't know. Maybe he'll play Lex Luthor. There we go. We'll just throw that out there. Vin Diesel as Lex Luthor. All right, that has to be it. That's definitely it. All right, I'm gonna move on. Dave Filoni has said some interesting things about his Star Wars movie. We'll start reading here. In an interview with Empire during Star Wars Celebration, where his movie was first announced, Filoni discussed how small stories, such as the TV shows, compared to the big stories, i.e. the main films in the Skywalker saga. The way I look at it, there are small stories, and then there's the big story of the day too, Filoni said. A New Hope, Empire, and Return of the Jedi tell the important parts of the tale that really define the history of the period. There are all kinds of sub-stories beneath that. We've been building all these small stories. Did he say anything else? Oh, it froze. Cringe. Bro, why does Google Chrome keep freezing? Is this just a me problem? Bro, this legit froze. Hold on. Wait, are we good? Maybe. Okay, I can read the rest of this. Blah, blah, blah. Filoni goes on to describe the vision for his own movie. God damn it. Okay. Filoni goes on to describe the vision for his own movie, which will conclude the interconnected story of current Disney Plus shows like The Mandalorian and the Book of Boba Fett, as well as upcoming shows like Ahsoka and The Skeleton Crew. To me, a theatrical experience has to have a big idea, a monumental moment in the time period that changes what's happening, Filoni continued. What Andor has done and what we did in Rebels, everything then changes when Luke blows up the Death Star. You're looking for those moments that define an era. And that's what the films really should be about, whether it's characters coming together or a defining moment. So, my prediction is that whatever his movie ends up being, I think that's where we're really gonna, like, establish, like, the First Order being, like, the evil fascist whatever regime that we see them being in the sequel trilogy, because we still haven't really seen that transition clearly. This is my guess. My guess is that that's what we're gonna see happen in that movie. That's what I'm getting from what he's talking about here. But yeah, we'll see. All right, next up. Stranger Things final season production pushed due to the writer's strike. So the Duffer Brothers, yeah, it looks like they wrote this on Twitter. Writing does not stop when filming begins, they wrote on the official Twitter account for the Stranger Things writers. While we're excited to start production with our amazing cast and crew, it's not possible during the strike. We hope a fair deal is reached soon so we can all get back to work. Until then, over and out. So, yeah, Stranger Things has officially been put on pause while the strike is happening. I think this is a cool move. Just not just moving barreling forward, but saying, hey, we are obviously in solidarity with the strikers. We just don't want to work on our show until this gets resolved. This is obviously going to cost Netflix millions of dollars. So yeah, cool move. Cool move. Fair play, I say. All right. Last story. Warning, apparently the Five Nights at Freddy's trailer leaked online. Oh, looks like it's still on Twitter. Let me actually pull up this tweet to see if it's been taken down or not. Yeah, it's still there. I'm not gonna watch it, but I'll just wait for it to be released officially. But yeah, it's out there if you want to watch a crappy version of it. But yeah. All right, that is it. No more news stories. I'll just say, hey, go out and watch Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 if you haven't. I thought it was absolutely phenomenal. You can go watch my reviews. I have a spoiler-free and a spoilery. Both videos, those are up on the channel at the moment. Another really important thing that you have to do is you have to like this video. You have to do it. It's not optional. You have to like, you have to subscribe, you have to have a good day. And you have to come